Hello, beautiful goddess. So glad I get to do this toe reading for you, this Astro Toe Reading. So in an Astro Toe Reading, we look at your toes, and then we look at how that also shows in your chart. So it's these two parts of you that we can see how it's playing out together. Your star chart, your birth chart from when you were born, is like the map of your life. And your toes tell you where you are on that map. So if you wanted to go to New York, but you didn't know where you were starting from, it would be hard to get there. Whereas if you know that you're in Idaho and you want to go to New York, that gives you the place to be. So this is knowing where you are. This is the map of your life. So in toe reading, you have your left foot, which is your internal self, how you relate to self, how you connect with spirit. On your right foot, this is how you experience the world and how others experience you. It's how you move through the world. And then each of the toes has a specific energy. So the small toes are prosperity and trust, and it's either internal or external. Relationship is your fourth toe. Action is your third toe. Communication and expression is your second toe. And on your left foot, this is your spirit path. And on your right foot, this is your life path. So each of those energies, whether it's internally or externally directed, is how we read toes. The toes tell us where you are and where you've been. And then from that, you can deduce where you might be in the future based on current path. But what I think is the most powerful thing about toe reading is that you're not trying to divinate the future. You're knowing exactly where you are now, so that if you don't like the trajectory that's headed there, you can make adjustments. And those adjustments are made through a variety of ways: mindset, energetics. And also, I'm going to teach you in this reading some ways that you can gently use manual techniques to start to shift that energy even sooner. I do invite you to set a calendar notice for yourself that in 30 days, you take another picture of your toes, and I can walk you through this, or you can do it on your own and just see where changes have happened. Because from the time you booked this reading to now, you've already experienced some changes. And in 30 days, you're going to really be able to see these in your toes. So let's start. The first thing that I notice when I look at your toes are your big toes. So we have spirit path and life path. Let's talk about life path first. All right. When I see this toe, there's a couple of things that I observe about it. The first thing is I observe that it is pointing towards the future. When toes are looking towards the little toe or towards the exterior, that is looking towards the future. So this toe is looking toward the future. So what are you looking to the future for that's keeping you out of the present? And when we look at your chart, you've got all this fire in you. So fire, you can't see tomorrow's or smell tomorrow or feel tomorrow's fire. You can only do it right now. So I do recommend getting very present and doing a candle meditation where you're looking at a candle flame. You could use some earth and some water also. And for the purpose of this life path toe, if you were to gaze at a candle and just consider your life path, what are you looking towards the future for? What's in the future that you don't have in the present? And how can you get present? And if you want to even make that more powerful while you're doing that candle gazing meditation, gently massage your toes. And the way that I would recommend massaging this one is putting your left two fingers right in this area, so it's stabilizing, and then taking your right fingers and just gently massaging up and gently pushing over towards the center line. So this toe is going to be a little bit more lined up and straight. And this is what's going to happen when you do that, is that's going to open up this channel of leadership here. By opening this up, it opens up the channel of leadership. Now, additionally, you've got some callousing here on this side. You have protected yourself, especially in the past. You've put up walls and protected yourself in your life path. And this could be both in career, but also just in life choices in your life and in your path. So what walls have you put up, and what walls is it beneficial for you now to gently take down, and maybe turn it from a battle line or like a cinder brick wall with razor wire on top to a boundary line. And when I think of boundaries, I like to think of in a theater how you have those velvet ropes that just keep people where they need to be going, but it's not threatening. And people who honor those boundaries are the people that you want to keep in your space. People who, will just like push past those boundaries, those are the people that you're going to want to change your dynamic with. So gently massaging with some oil. And I would recommend in this oil, so you can use like a jojoba oil or an almond oil. You can even use olive oil, and then put a few drops of rose geranium or rose absolute in it, really choosing these very feminine energy oils to just gently bring those walls down and transform them from the very, very masculine, very abrasive cinder brick with razor wire on top to these boundaries that are soft and yet honored. Okay, we don't need blurry boundaries. You need firm boundaries, but they also don't have to be like a high maintenance wall. They can just be these velvet ropes. And then not sure what's underneath the nail polish, but I would also recommend gently massaging this nail and massaging it in this kind of a motion from the bottom right corner up to the top left corner and then across this way. So coming from this bottom right corner and just fanning out in this way, moving your finger across that. Okay, spirit path toe. Again, we see this leaning over, but we see less callousing going on here. So a little bit more of the kind of a boundary like we're talking about. So what are your spiritual boundaries? And explore that, write that out. What are your spiritual boundaries? And using that as a model for what your life boundaries in this three-dimensional world might be like. Because on this foot, we see a whole lot less of this callousing going on. Now, this is your channel of intuition. And so you are a very intuitive person. And I want you to just imagine if this energy was tracking straight and this toe wasn't leaning towards the future in this way, imagine that amazing seer level gift of intuition that you would enjoy. So same as on this foot, stabilizing through here and then gently rubbing up here and inviting that energy to track in a more straight way when it comes to your spirit path. You are a very adaptable, very mutable person. This is something that you've had to learn throughout your life, to roll with it, to flow with it. And what I'm going to invite you to do is keep that beautiful flow, but stop self-sacrificing. Because sometimes you have adapted so adeptly, so powerfully. It's such a gift of yours to adapt that you haven't always realized the dysfunction of a situation until you cannot ignore it. And by that point, that's when somebody has made it through the cinder brick wall and the razor wire on top and really invaded your space. So we're not going to do that. Okay? You're not going to do that. Instead, what you're going to do is set up these boundaries. So I invite you, as you are doing this action here of stabilizing and massaging your toe this way, asking what are the boundaries that I get to set up for myself. No one else, they don't have to look like anybody else's boundaries. They're your boundaries. What are they? And then gently rubbing across this toe. Again, you're going to want to come from the inside, or the left corner of this, so the outside corner, and move in towards the center line, just rubbing across, not necessarily from the corner, but just from this side here and rubbing across. And even up here where we want this nail bed to extend out, rubbing across that way. And I also recommend using an essential oil here, and I would use it straight, and that would be like a cinnamon or an oregano, or like doTERRA has the On Guard blend, some kind of a blend like that, Thieves Blend if you use the Young Living. So something like that, where you're actually going to apply that directly onto the toe, and then you're going to take that same rose geranium or rose absolute oil, and then you're going to use that to massage across here. So because you've got fungus going on in this toenail, what is eating you? There's something to journal about. What's eating you? What's eating you to the point that it is causing some breaking away, some hardening, and separation from your soul self, from your higher self. All right, moving on to the communication expression toes. Communication and expression is so important to you. These toes are the same length as your big toes, these communication expression toes. So this communication and expression, and through your communication and expression, you are going to empower others to also communicate and express, which I think is part of your core purpose now in what you do for a living, and just generally speaking, empowerment of others to be authentic. And you do that through self-expression. Now, you do have some blocked energy in these toes, and on this spot of communication with self, you're pretty honest with yourself, and just releasing some of this blocked energy in this toe through just a gentle massage, just releasing the ways that you are blocking maybe communication from self, maybe some things that you don't want to see. But this doesn't need to be like, this can be fun. All right. What is your favorite way to communicate and express? Maybe it's through dance. Maybe it's through writing. Maybe it's through art. Whatever you feel is a good way to move this energy is perfect for you. Now, when we look at this toe, we've got some of that similar callousing over here. Callousing and protecting yourself from the past. In the past, you have not been able to communicate and express in an aligned way for you. It felt like you kept getting blocked, like it wasn't accepted or appreciated, and even that it was ridiculed. So time to break those walls down, because in this new life, starting today, you get to express in the way that feels right for you. You get to communicate in a way that honors you and your higher self. Really call in your higher self. How would your higher self respond in this situation? And letting this wall down and turning this into a boundary. Relationships where you do not feel comfortable expressing probably need to be reevaluated and rethought about. Also, some childhood trauma here of not being able to communicate and express. And so you would just flow to survive. A lot of survival conformity, and you don't have to do that anymore. That's a pattern that you can break. You do not need to conform in order to survive anymore. So in what areas of your life are you conforming to survive? Reevaluating those and moving beyond and transcending those with the gift of deep compassion and glasses so that you can see how other people are doing the same thing, and you being the light that shows them that there is a different way to do it. All right, let's move on to your action toes. There's so much action that you want to take for yourself, and you are absolutely an action taker. You've got your Mars here in the third house, so action and expression, action in communication, in the fast-moving sign of Gemini, and so you are absolutely an action taker, and it's very mutable, meaning this is where you can flow with things and not even realize how dysfunctional it is because you're just able to move in and to survive. Time to move past surviving and move into thriving. Taking action is as important to you as communication is. So let's get this toe. I bet this toe is really, really flexible. So massaging that toe so that we're releasing some energy and then setting up your boundaries. So boundaries seems to be a very common theme of the energy that I'm reading in your toes. Setting those boundaries up. What do they look like? And then honoring your commitments to take action for yourself. You will 100% take action for someone else. What does it look like to take that same action, to honor your commitments that you've made to yourself in the same way? So massaging this toe with the idea of setting up these boundaries for yourself so you're not just ebbing and flowing and then protecting yourself in situations that are dysfunctional. And here we have releasing some energy in this toe and then gently pushing these two toes together. We want this action toe to be slightly closer to this communication toe so that they are in alignment. What you commit to yourself, you'll take action on, keeping these commitments to yourself. Let's talk about these relationship toes. When we look at your chart, you have your Venus over here in the sign of Libra in the 6th house. So part of your health, part of the way that you are able to continue in your divine work is through relationships. And these relationships need to be equal. They need to be relationships of collaboration, not competition. They need to be relationships of wholeness, not seeking perfection. They need to be relationships that are egalitarian, where you're both giving 100%. Now, that 100% can fluctuate from day to day because sometimes our 100% one day really looks more like 80% another day, but it's the best we can do for that day. And holding space for each other to do that. It's time for you to get out of relationships of inequality and step 100% and fully into relationships of equality. And so this is also not self-sacrificing to keep the peace, not self-sacrificing because the relationship is important to you. Relationships are clearly important to you. Your relationship toes are as long as these other toes, your communication and action toes. Relationships are highly important to you. So let's release this energy. And there are some things, so I would take these toes and I would just gently rub them like this with the intent of releasing that blocked energy. And all the way from here, up, around, down, up. So, or even in an infinity symbol on these toes with the intent of releasing the dynamic and the relationship patterns of the past that do not serve you and stepping into your honored and sacred relationship with self in your authenticity and in your sacred and honored authentic relationships with others. Now let's look at your trust and prosperity toes. When we look at your trust and prosperity toes, this trust and prosperity is going to be found in your work and in your relationships with others, and even through your own woundedness. So identifying and working with the wound, not and it's likely not a wound that will be healed in this lifetime, but it is from that wounded space that you really step into your leadership, that wounded leadership, which is so powerful. You have trusted people in the past that you should not have trusted. And you know that now as part of the journey. So when I say should not have trusted, you now would not make the same choices. But learning from that has helped you. So honoring that in yourself and making different choices about who to trust, especially as a child in the early part of your life. Release resentments around places where you put your trust that actually were not trustworthy places to put that. You were doing the best that you could. And then really focusing in on this toe. I'm really feeling that this is your prosperity toe. I would get some of the same oil with the rose in it that you're using for these toes and use it on this toe. You are worthy of receiving all the prosperity that the universe has. You are worthy of bringing in massive amounts of health, money, opportunities, empowering relationships, all of those things that are prosperous. You are worthy. I am worthy. Please repeat that mantra as you work on all of these toes. I am worthy. And I think that that's going to be a really empowering, beautiful thing for you. You are worthy. You are worthy of being a pioneer. You are worthy of being first. You are worthy of being innovative, of being seen. You are worthy of having fun and being creative and being seen. You are worthy to take the actions for yourself that will bring you fulfillment and joy. You are worthy of empowering relationships. You are worthy of seeing through the BS and having transformation in your relationships. You are worthy. I hope that you'll send me a picture or that I can see your toes in about 4 weeks. I think you're going to see massive changes, especially if you incorporate in your daily routine just a quick massage of these toes. This doesn't have to be long. It can be. You can do it as long as you want. But if you just spend a couple of minutes a day on this before you go to bed or in your morning meditation, whatever works for you, just find a time to do it and you're going to see massive results. Thank you so much for this privilege of reading your toes and your star chart. You are worthy.